so I'll try to keep this really close to my mouth. It's lovely to see you all here this morning. Good morning. I hope you got good rest last night. Okay, so my talk is about Carnivore's gadgets, but I think what I'll do is start by introducing myself as a human being who has had their own journey. You know, some people need a lot of coaxing before they realize that something's up. And it took me severe osteoporosis, autoimmune disease, and a stroke before I finally figured out that I was going to have to reevaluate what I'm doing in my life. So that's what I want to share with you today. Is this the, here's another gadget. I'm pretty familiar with gadgets. I think this will work.
Left, right.
Left and right.
Right one is next. Right.
Next. Okay, great, thank you.
And don't press the small ones underneath.
Don't
press the small buttons underneath, and then you stop the pressing.
And then I have trouble. Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the Carnivore's gadgets. This is a little bit about me. I am a psychiatrist. Psychiatrists are MDs. I went to medical school, etc. I'm very glad that I chose psychiatry. It's been a wonderful, wonderful journey, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of helping patients. And I've been able to help them even more since I've learned about diet. So, I'm a doctor and I'm also a patient. I'm a teacher, but I'm also a student. And actually, I had to be a student before I could be a teacher. And I'm still learning. So what you hear today may change. I don't know. The research comes in, things change, but I will give you the best that I have for right now. Okay, so life lessons learned. Basically, common things happen commonly. So when I had my stroke, when I had high blood pressure, when I started having problems with glucose, I just kept thinking, this can't be just me. This can't be just me. Because they happen commonly, I had to look for nutrition-related conditions in my patients as well. And basically, I think that nutrition and sleep are at the center of health. People that don't get adequate nutrition and sleep, they can't exercise, they're not active, they don't feel well, and we all want to be contributors, and that really stands in the way of that kind of satisfaction. So I'm going to tell you about four things. Basically, humans are carnivores. That is what I think. Not everyone agrees with me, and that's fine. Again, what I know today may be not changed tomorrow, but I'm going to give you my best shot at it. Some of you who saw my lecture last time will see this as a review. Human technology enabled carnivory. That's really at the heart of carnivory for human beings. We had to have some kind of technology, and I'll talk about that. Modern man makes modern food at his or her peril. So we've gotten so advanced in our technology that we can actually hurt ourselves with our diet. And healthcare technology holds promise to basically rescue us from what we've done to our diet. And I look forward to that day. So, humans are carnivores. This is my best shot at an argument in that favor. So basically there are many primate dietary strategies. We are primates. At least this is how we're classified by anthropologists, zoologists. And so we know that the gorilla is an herbivore. He does eat some insects. It comes with leaves, but that's not his aim. His aim is mostly at vegetation. And then we have the omnivore chimpanzee, for whom about 10% of the diet is small game, lizards, eggs, termites, other animals. And then there's what I consider to be the carnivore. So what I want to show you here, this slide basically shows several areas of the gut. And this is relative percentage of gut volume. So you can see that the stomach for the gibbon, which is the lesser ape, the siamang, orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee, these are the great apes. Chimpanzee is allegedly closest relative to us. And then human. Human is that crosshatch bar. You can see for stomach takes up relative size, about maybe 18 to 25% of the gut area. But you can see small intestine for human being is extremely important. There's a lot of space opened up to small intestine for humans. The colon, however, is very small. And in fact, humans can live without a colon, but I don't believe that the apes could. So, and that's been seen in a lot of colon cancer studies. Okay, so what's that about? Well, it turns out that the small intestine is able to absorb readily available nutrients, and among these readily available nutrients are meats, and especially meats that are slightly raw. And the colon is a large fermentation factory for plants. And you can see that it's very important in these other animals, but does not appear to be given as much emphasis in us. If you look at digestion and how much of the food is in fermentative compartments, what you see is that there are several animals that we would expect to be fermenters. By fermentation, I mean breaking down those cell walls that are made of cellulose. So these animals can do it very well, cattle and sheep, no surprise here. The pig is an omnivore, the rat is an omnivore, and you can see that they're very good fermenters. But when you look at man is actually a rather poor fermenter. In fact, about 17% of digestion is in fermentation. In the cat, about 16%, and in the dog, about 14%. These are just numbers. They're just giving you pretty much numbers. The pig basically is 48%, and you can see human 17, cat 16, dog 14. I mentioned the pig because the pig is an omnivore. So which two stomachs are most alike? What you'll see right there is man and his dog. So Eli Suni actually did a more thorough look at this and looked at 70 species of mammal and found that humans were carnivores based on their data. Currently, of all the hunters-gatherers, and the reason I look at these people is because they deliver children and live their lives without dentists or OBGYN or any assistance. They derive about greater than 55% of energy from animal foods. This includes fats, meats, organs, bones, etc. Now, you would think that if we're carnivores, that our nearest relative should look something like this. Okay? So where are the fangs and claws? In fact, the baboon, which is an omnivore, has much larger fangs than we do. I mean, they are formidable. Anybody here ever seen pictures of baboon fangs? Whoa, yes. All right. But in fact, our nearest relative is allegedly a very mild-looking animal. Lucy. Lucy was a primate, apparently based on her bone structure. She was on 2 feet. She was what we call bipedal. And this may be what she looked like. You know, in forensics, they basically take a skull and then they build around the skull to try to give the identity of a person. They do the same with these skulls that they find in various areas of Africa. Lucy was found in Ethiopia. So when you look at the human face, though, look at this. Okay, do you see her bone structure, the high cheekbones, the eyes, the whites around the eyes? Of course, this is artist rendition. We don't really know, but we make a guess. But there's an ape-like mouth area. But if you look at human beings who thrived on meat, this is an Etruscan woman who is middle to upper class, ate quite a lot of pork, poultry, etc. Do you see those high cheekbones and the narrowing? I'm going to show you another person, unrelated. Do you see this? Mongolian? Same structure. Carnivore diet. Do you see this? The San of the Kalahari Desert. Same structure. Do you see this? Native American. Same structure. Do you see these children? These are Gaelic children. Same structure. Look at the faces. Do you see? There's a little girl down at the bottom there. She's blonde. She has a longer face. But the other girls have the high cheekbones, very much the same structure. In fact, if you had lined all these people up, you would have thought that they were related to each other. And we are. Yes? But our faces have changed. This was noticed by Weston A. Price. Anybody here familiar with Weston A. Price? Yes. I think he had a lot to offer. And his book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, is available to you online, free of charge, PDF. Okay. These are Native American skulls from Canada and Northern America. And you can see that they didn't need orthodontists. The third molars grew in just fine. These people ate a lot of fat-containing foods, and it's thought that the fat-soluble vitamins D, A, K, and E, contributed to this fine, beautiful bone and dental structure. All right? In human evolution, basically we had a very demanding brain, and this brain demanded a lot of calories. If you spend an hour gathering acorns, you may score 1,800 calories, but if you spend an hour hunting collared peccary, which is a pig-like animal used as game in a lot of hunter-gatherer areas, then you could score for every hour of the hunt about 65,000 calories. And those calories are quite nutrient dense. So basically we had to become bipedal. We had to stand up above the grasses of the savanna, and we had to be able to run down game. And that was our first ability, was to basically run down game. And the San of the Kalahari continue to do this to this day. If you see human mammal, just basically human mammal and Kalahari, try Googling that on, or looking it up on YouTube, and you'll see a beautiful example of hunters running down game. What they would do is overheat the game during the daytime, and the game would basically fall down from heat exhaustion. But because we could sweat, then we were able to outrun them. Sweating was a great advantage, and being bipedal was also a great advantage, that is being up on two legs. So we also had hair loss as well, and that also enabled us to get rapid cooling on the hunt. The eyes of a cooperative hunter. Anthropologists have proposed that the reason we have so much white around our eyes as compared to, say, a chimpanzee or great ape is so that during a hunt we can simply look and not move. And fellow hunters will see that as a gesture toward the prey. Because in some of the areas of hunting, there are dried leaves on the ground, there are lots of ways to make noise. The last thing you want to do is that. In fact, some propose that the reason many men are nonverbal or not as verbal as women is because they have to be quiet. It's better to use hand signals and motions, and men tend to pick these up very well. So this is just telling me that I should be about 15 minutes into the talk by now. I have little cues here. But this looks like a medieval guy enjoying the glories of the hunt. By the way, I want to point out this dog because you're going to see this dog again. Okay, human technology enabled carnivory, right? So it was one thing to bring down game, but it was another thing to eat it. And about 3.3 to 3.4 million years ago, this is what these tools are dated at. That is a very long time ago. And we think Lucy lived around that time. If there was another primate that is a closer relative to us, they just haven't found it yet. But they're looking. Okay? So right now, Lucy is our candidate. And look at the notch on this bone. 3.4 million years ago. Do you see that? So we think that these gadgets were very good for breaking open bones, to getting that very fatty marrow out of there, to break open the skull of the animal, and to dine on the brain, which sounds gross, I realize, especially in this day of prions and mad cow disease. But in fact, the brain is a very excellent source of unharmed cholesterol, and also a very good source of fat, and lots of nutrition in the brain. So I'm sure if Lucy was a meat eater, she's probably eager to get at that. Okay, so this is the result of a daytime persistence hunt, the one that I told you that's on YouTube. And it was a beautiful thing to witness. He had a spear, and he did use the spear, but I think it hit the shoulder blade. It was more of a ritual spear. It had not anything to do with the animal's death. But very quietly, this man, out of respect for this animal, picked up a handful of earth and scattered it over this animal to show his honor for this kill. And I think that's something that we as modern people can learn a lot from. I think that giving thanks for what dies for our health and taking care of the animals that die for our health is not only good for us, but it's good for the world. So, 33,000 years ago, men had dogs. We didn't realize that it was that long ago, back in the 80s. I thought it was like 15,000 years ago, but we have much more evidence now. And do you see these long, slim dogs? Remember that dog that was with that gentleman? Virtually unchanged from that time. In fact, if you look at, there's a hound called the Bison hound. Yes? And do you see that dog? Huh? Yep. These hounds, they're called wind hounds sometimes because they run like the wind. They have very deep chests, large lungs. And there it is. There are many hounds that look somewhat like him. Greyhound looks somewhat like him, but the tail isn't quite the same. 30,000 years ago, we had this amazing piece of technology called the addle-addle. The addle-addle. And this is an Aboriginal man in Australia using the addle-addle. And you can see that he's in beautiful condition, healthy. The addle-addle was basically sort of a throwing stick. It was like an arm where the spear could be seated at the tip of it, and then with an overhand throw, it could be launched with deadly accuracy. In fact, I saw a television program where someone took a dummy probably as far away from me as Jimmy, and basically made a direct hit in the head. It was pretty astounding. This, because it bows, it basically, as it's launched, it bows and then kicks off, and it's been clocked at 100 miles an hour. So that's pretty interesting stuff. And you can see this is in Mexico, a native Mexican using the addle-addle. It's also been seen in Mongolia. So this is a technology that was highly valued and spread all over the world. This is a rock painting of an addle-addle. Some of the different designs, for example, do you see that lower area with the two holes? Someone could actually park 2 fingers and launch it that way. And there's some speculation, and it is speculation, that the addle-addle aided in the extinction of the mammoth. You can see it. Can you see the person standing underneath that mammoth? That was a lot of meat. Yeah. 20,000 years ago, bow and arrow. In some areas of the world, it's used to this day. So here's a lovely meat eater. So food from animals, extremely important for building the human body. And I'm not saying we shouldn't eat vegetables. I'm just saying that the most nutrient-dense diets include food from animals. There really is no way around this. And there's so much controversy right now about saturated fats. And when you look at our evolutionary dictates, it's very hard from a sensible viewpoint to reconcile oneself with the idea that suddenly saturated fats will cause heart disease. Now, I guess you could say, well, it causes heart disease, but later in life, and as long as you get through reproduction, then you're fine. But I don't think that even holds, because elders in tribes are very important for storing the information about child rearing and the history of the tribe and where to go in a drought. So I think that doesn't exactly hold water. It's really interesting. I love elephants. And elephants have very similar cultural aspects. Females have to be around 50 years old before they actually lead the tribe. So it was very important in those tribes as well that animals survive into middle and old age. So I am of the opinion that the saturated fats, especially if they're well sourced, will not hurt us, and I think that they were actually preferred sources of fuel. So all cells have lipid membranes, and all cell organelles also involve lipids. And the brain is about 60% fat, and actually the brain holds about 25% of all our cholesterol. Much of it is in myelin. The myelin sheath is very much like what you would use on a wire to insulate. It's insulation. And it actually helps the current to go faster. So we need all of that. So much that the brain will actually make its own cholesterol. Proteins, amino acids, become neurotransmitters. This is really important in my practice. I often try to get my patients to start taking gelatin just to have a very, very easily accessed source of amino acids, because most of the patients who come to me are malnourished. Building materials. We don't think about building materials, but really what holds your nose up? You know? What actually gets your bones and joints to hold you up and to be strong? What holds your liver in place? We have to have good building materials. Vitamins. B12 is derived from animal foods. Yes, we may make some B12 or B12 analogs in the colon, but the problem is getting it up to the area of the body that actually absorbs the B12. That's the problem. By the time it's down in the colon, my understanding is the B12 is no longer accessible, even if it was not an analog and actually a good source of B12. So we have to be able to have hydrochloric acid to break down our proteins and to help us to separate the B12 from what we eat, and then it is absorbed also higher up in the GI system. Omega-3 fatty acids. You just don't find the same kinds of omega-3 fatty acids in plants as you do in animals. And in fact, ALA, which is a type of omega-3 fatty acid found in plants, really cannot be converted as easily to DHA and EPA, which are two of the omega-3s that we very, very much need. It's much easier and much more abundant in animal foods. And in fact, your pastured animal is going to have a very nice balance of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid. It's going to be the kind of balance that your body can thrive on. But the animal in the corn lot is going to have just too much linoleic acid, just too much in omega-6. And I think that these animals experience inflammation themselves, and their fats may also cause imbalances that could lead to inflammation in us. So I think taking care of our sources and taking care of our animals is very important. Minerals. Minerals are essential to health. And how many people here do bone broth? Yes. Oh, yes. This is fantastic. And if you're not doing it now, get yourself a pressure cooker. That's how I cut my bone broth from 48 hours to 1. And make yourself the best tasting bone broth. It doesn't smell particularly good when it's cooking, but let me tell you what, a nice hot cup of bone broth with salt, oh my goodness, it's so delicious. Really, this is what helps contribute to our mineral supply, and it also is what contributes to our building materials. So, snout to tail, very important, snout to tail. We have to be a little careful about thyroid and a few things, but basically snout to tail cooking is the way that humans always did it. The problem is that in recent decades, we've grown a little squeamish of that. I saw an episode of Mad Men, and they were sitting at the table, and one woman turned to her eating companion and said, "And how did you enjoy those sweet breads?" Yes? That was a long time ago. We don't do that anymore. I remember I had to cook sweetbreads in home ec. Now I'm dating myself, right? Yeah, but that's what we did. In butter. In butter. Yeah. Sustainability. Snout to tail is going to help us with sustainability. It turns out that cooked collagen, which is gelatin, is basically a representative of about 60% of the animal. About 60% of the animal's protein is collagen. And we have to understand that it's really important that we use all of that. Now, when you eat gelatin, one caveat, it's not a complete protein. Don't depend on it as your protein. But do supplement it when you're eating red meat. It's very, very helpful to digestion and assimilation. So I just put it in my coffee. I put it in my coffee or tea, or even just put it in plain water and drink it. I usually do a tablespoon twice a day, and I've had pretty amazing results with it. In fact, I started getting muscle definition even though I don't work out. So I was pretty stunned by that, and I think it's because collagen is the glue. In fact, that is the basis of a lot of glues that holds us together. Animal organs nourish your organs. So whatever it takes to make up the animal kidney could also help your kidney. Whatever it takes to make up an animal liver could help your liver. So animals basically nourish every part of us, and we don't use enough of them. Pearl, bone broth is your friend. If you didn't think so before, please look up Broth is Beautiful by Sally Fallon. She tells a story about the Middle Ages when there were large pots, boiling pots of basically cooked collagen, and these places were called brothels. So she says there should be a brothel on every corner. Anti-inflammatory, cartilage sparing. The studies have been done on this. Glycine to balance the amino acids, sleep and calm promoting. Gelatin is cooked collagen. Okay, so modern man makes modern food. And here we have an estimate of what people ate, maybe in about 2010, the average family for a week. And you can see it's just a sea of refined carbohydrates. In fact, if these people didn't brush their teeth would be perhaps gone by now. Yeah. So these are fermentable carbohydrates, and I use the term fermentable carbohydrates from dentistry. These are carbohydrates that cause tooth decay and gum disease. All right, they're highly refined. They're powders. So I would say if you were going to do one thing for your diet, get rid of the powders. Get rid of powdered grains. Get rid of powdered milk. Get rid of powdered eggs. Get rid of powdered everything and anything that's made of them. So through this sea of carbohydrate, we basically went from this to this. and this beautiful facial structure. Weston Price said that he saw the generations following the incursion of British foods, and these were canned goods, flours, and sugars. And he saw the dental decline in the next generation, and he also noticed that the faces got longer. Pottinger did another experiment with cats and found the same thing, cats with long faces. So the long face is the new trend, and these are beautiful women, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying that the face has changed, and we're seeing a lot more variation in human facial structure, and this has been since we've changed our diets. So 60% of mortality worldwide is now from chronic non-communicable disease, and I believe that the chronic non-communicable disease is basically a result of these industrial foods. Dental caries, periodontal disease, sleep apnea. A lot of people have sleep apnea now. Among the obese, it's very high percentage. And I recommend that anyone who snores be worked up, because it could change your life. Foods that promote tooth decay and gum disease basically promote systemic disease. Okay? Fermentable carbohydrates are sticky, sugary foods, dried fruits, refined grains, crackers, potato chips. Potato chips turn out to be among the most obesogenic and among the foods that cause the most dental problems. So then we had metabolic syndrome. I had metabolic syndrome. I think that's what led to my stroke, actually. So central obesity, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDL, insulin resistance. Yeah, my blood pressure was 200 over 100. They couldn't figure it out because I was skinny, but that's because I was a carbohydrate addict. In fact, sugar was my thing. Healthcare technology holds promise to rescue modern man from modern food. And by the way, I ate sugar to the exclusion of real food, because I knew if I ate all that food, I'd get fat, right? So just eat sugar. Not a good idea. Anyway, so we have some healthcare technology that can really help us out. And I just want to show that this carbohydrate is, the refined carbohydrates are sort of like crack. If anybody's ever heard about Xanax or some of these very short-acting, highly addictive drugs, or even methamphetamine, it just has a very high upsweep and then a big drop. And that's pretty much what these refined carbohydrates do to people. Protein does gluconeogenesis. Remember, we've heard about that during this trip. Protein does cause some sugar excursion, but again, it's over a longer period of time, and the peak is not so, the rise is not so steep. And then fat, there may be gluconeogenesis with fat as well, and it's released over a very, very, very slow, long period of time. So here's what happens when you have high blood sugar excursions and your blood sugar levels shoot up, and you basically get a surge of insulin, and they're now finding that you can have high blood sugar and still have hypoglycemia, because it's the incursion of insulin that apparently causes the symptoms. So then you just come crashing down. Too quickly, too fast, you're left with a low, and you may feel tired, slow, and irritable. Hangry. You've heard that word many times on this cruise. Hangry. Hungry and angry. So this is what happens when we eat like cereals and all kinds of things that are really not food. They're not meant to be food, and they act very much like a drug. And so I'll see these people that have all these ups and downs during the day, and they say, I think I have what is it? Oh, I know what it is. They think that's it. Good, thank you. Bipolar disorder. So, but you know, if you look at psychiatry and you find out what the definition of bipolar is, it's over weeks, it's not over a day. So these mood swings can often, and I find this in my patients, they can often be charted along with meals. And then I ask them what they're eating, and I find out that they're eating this cereal, refined cereal, that's really good for you. And I'm thinking, oh, I wish they'd just eat the box. They probably live longer. So this is telling me I should be 30 minutes in, and I am 34 minutes in, so I'm gonna keep going here. So glucose measurements in real time. So gadget one is the glucometer, and I actually brought one, but I didn't bring it up. I'm sorry, but this is about what it looks like. Okay. And some strengths. It does provide helpful information for most, but not all individuals. And blood sugars are measured in real time. We can basically make some estimates as to what our meals are doing to us, or at least to our blood sugars. And it's inexpensive, except for the strips. Strips can be very spendy. I understand in America, our Canadian neighbors can be nice to us. Maybe get us a good deal on strips, but yeah, they're very expensive in the US. So some limitations, there's about a 10% margin of error. And also not all fluctuations are measured. Many go unseen because unless you're measuring it every 5 minutes, and then you're gonna be a mess. You'll be anxious, your hands won't look very good, etc. So it requires active attention and timing. And you could miss important non-meal events, and I'm going to show you that in a second, unless you measure in the middle of the night. And you can't see insulin. This is a drawback of all of this. All the things that we can do, the ketones, et cetera, really don't show us what insulin's doing. We can make some guesses about it, but we don't really know. So here are just some guidelines. You can get a lot of these online. This is based on the oral glucose tolerance test in mainstream medicine. Some people like to keep their sugars a lot tighter. Anyway, but that's the general trend right now. And I tried to interpret it for European folks and Australians who may use a different system. I think it's millimoles per liter, is that right? Yeah. So gadget two. Gadget 2, continuous glucose monitoring. I've been dying to tell you about this one. This is really fun. It's like a video game. You can actually see your sugars in real time. All right? It's pretty good. So here is the Abbott Pharmaceuticals has the cheap version of the one I'm about to show you. The one I got was the only one I could get in the US. It was very expensive. And I only had it for a short time because it's very expensive. So, and then this is the Dexcom G5, and you can get your results on your smartphone. It's pretty cool. And what these do is the Abbott one measures every minute, and the Dexcom measures every 5 minutes, but what it does is it generates a curve. Strengths, it's comfortable for most. Really, the little sensor is about the size of a human hair. Samples every 1 to 5 minutes, shows glucose trends continuously, and the alarm will tell you if the glucose is trending too high or too low. But the drawbacks, expense. Collaboration with regular glucose monitor twice a day, and we know that the regular glucose monitor has maybe a 10% variation, so even that might not be exact. And it may lose calibration. I kept getting in the middle of the night, alarms, screaming, too low, and so I'd take my blood glucose, it'd be like 73, but my continuous glucose monitor said 52, and so it's just, yeah, it still needs work, but it's, for all of that, it will show you trends. Can get in the way of clothing, get knocked off, expensive to replace. Can drain your phone battery, and you still can't see insulin. Okay, so lesson learned. I'm going to show Mount Hood, Oregon. I just wanted to show you what a peak looks like. This is my usual continuous glucose monitoring pattern. Plain 3-inch apple, 25 grams carbohydrate. There I am. Apple alarm, 142. Now remember, I have impaired glucose tolerance, so. Mount apple. Okay, so about 150. But I had no cravings after that. I really felt pretty satisfied with that, and I had a normal dinner, and things went well. Snickers bar, 20 grams carbohydrate. Snickers alarm, 132. But notice that the arrow is going horizontal. That means it's sort of topped out. This was very interesting to me. Remember, this is my body, not yours, right? We're all going to have different ways of responding. I'm just showing you what kinds of experiments you can do for yourself. So there's Mount Snickers, and we're up probably about 140 maybe, somewhere there. 150 is up above that yellow line, so. Cheerios, okay, this was the most startling one for me. So I did the Cheerios thing, okay? You can see it's gluten-free, it's not honey nut, it's just plain. And I did a half cup non-fat milk and about 25 grams of carbohydrate. And there it is. Oh, it was awful. I practically was traumatized by this. And it was really funny having not eaten it for so long. It really stunk. Anyway, so I ate it in 3 minutes. Gobble, gobble. All right, there is Mount Cheerios. That is the Mount Hood of my continuous glucose monitor. So here's a 64-year-old man on low-carb, high-fat for 2 years. Couldn't lose the belly, felt a lot better, more active, more alert, more lively. So we're trying to figure out what happened here. He got a continuous glucose monitor. In the middle of the night, he wasn't even eating. He was getting steady blood sugars of about 140. Okay? And this is, in part, this is a hormonal effect called the dawn effect. And he basically had a very stout dawn effect. And this is due to a lot of hormonal factors and not really to meal. It happens when growth hormone is introduced naturally. So we kept on the low-carb diet. There was eating within a 10-hour window, intermittent fasting, maybe once every week or 2 weeks. And he chose to have a 1 shot of whiskey nightcap. And this is what happened. And in fact, he was able to maintain a blood sugar of 107 without the nightcap, and the dawn effect is flattened. So potential uses, continuous glucose monitoring could revolutionize our views of diet. Abbott and Dexcom, if you're interested. Please, 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 if you get one of these, post your results. We're all interested. This is not a common gadget for most people. So we're all interested to know what happens when you eat certain things, or how your blood sugars are stabilizing, etc. And always do this in coordination with your doctor. If you're not sure of metabolic status, you want accuracy, get an oral glucose tolerance test with insulin. Make sure that you also get insulin every hour. All right, 4 things. Humans are carnivores. Human technology-enabled carnivory. Modern man makes modern food at his peril. Healthcare technology holds promise to rescue modern man from his Frankenfoods. Thank you.